Hi, I'm Bill Hitchcock, and in this last Excel Basics video clip, what I'm going to demonstrate is how to add in a few more formulas and also do some charts. So I've made a copy of this sheet over here, and I've got this one that's called Sales Charts, and to it I added in some additional information. So I've got the record number, the rep, the product, the sales. I've added in cost, and down at the bottom we've got the totals, the averages, minimums, and maximums. So all that's all set up. Let's compute out the profit. So the profit is going to be the sales minus what it cost. So 16,000. And if any of those numbers aren't already formatted, just go in, try the comma or the dollar format. Let me try that again. Dollar format, and get rid of our two decimal places. Then I'm going to copy that formula down. So we've got the profit for each one of these items. Again, it's just sales minus the cost. On a percentage basis, I'm going to take the profit and divide it by either the cost or the sales. It kind of depends on how you want to look at it. Um, if if we're basing this, well, um, again, sometimes there's reasons to do it by cost. Sometimes there's reasons to do it by sales. In this case, I want to take a look at it and say, all right, on your $50,000, roughly how much did we earn on profit? Um, and we earned 32% based off of that. So let's copy that down. So Chris's trucks did really well. All of these, I mean, are fairly high profit margins, 30%. Here's one, 50%. Not a bad job, but it's not, the sales aren't quite as high. So, it's, you got to look at two things. You got to look at both the absolute number and also on a relative basis. All right, down here at the bottom for the profit margin, if I take this 106,000 and divide it by the total sales, it's showing up as 58%. So we want to take a look at that and say, all right, well, what are we trying to get here? Let's take this formula, the profit, and divide it by the 290. There we go. That looks a little bit better. That's 37%. Now, if I would do the average formula on this and take the average of all these percentages, notice there it's 39%. Now that number really isn't correct because it's just taken the average of these percentages, but the reason why it's actually a little bit lower is it's a weighted average. So in other words, I want to take, if we, here, let me do it this way. Let me sort by profit, smallest to largest. And you can see our bigger profits are based on, here's 30,000, 24,000, 16,000. Our profit margins go down for that versus on our small profit, only $10,000 on a relative basis, that was 50%. So this 39% is really kind of a misleading number. You should delete that out. Don't take averages of um, percentages. Always do a weighted average. All right, so we've got in a few different functions like that. Next, what I want to do is I want to make some charts. So the first set of charts that I want to try doing is I just want to look at sales and see how that differs. So I can highlight sales, go to insert, insert a column or bar chart. I'll try the first one, and there I've got this nice chart. Let's move this to a different location so it's a little bit easier to see. And we'll just call this our sales. Actually, this is a column chart. And we've got a chart. All right. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It does tell us something, but up at the top it tells us this is sales, but down at the bottom it doesn't tell us what any of these bars are. It's just this is record number 1, record number 2, record number 3, record number 4, and so on. So to make this a little bit better, what I should have done is gone back to my original data, and I should have highlighted at least something to go along with it. So for example, the product or the rep name, or something that goes with it. So we can try product and sales, and let's try insert. Try the same thing, another column chart. Let's move this off to the side, and let's call this one sales column chart version 2. And this one's a little bit better. At least down at the bottom we can tell, hey, here's trucks, here's buses, here's trucks, here's cars, here's cars, here's buses, and we've got a bit more information there. Now, granted, this data that we're using is, it's so-so. What would probably be nice is to have both the fact that, well, these are Chris's and these are Robin's, and do some of that stuff. But again, it gives us some idea about what we're looking at for a chart. All right, the other chart that I can do is if I go back to my data, it's over here to the right, sorry about that. I want to take a look at cost versus profit and see if there's any difference between the two. So let me sort this back with my record number from smallest to largest. And we're going to highlight cost and profit. And let's go to insert, and we can do a column chart and move that one. So we'll say cost versus profit. And there we've got this nice column chart, and you can kind of get some feel for what we've got for our various vehicles or toys that we're selling. And here's one where the cost is fairly high, and yet profit is also fairly high. And depending on how we have our data sorted, it might make it a little bit easier to read. So let's just try from smallest to largest by cost and take a look at that cost versus profit. And you can see as the cost seems to be going up, profit kind of bounces around here a little bit to give you some feel for there. All right, finally, one last chart that we'll do is let's come back here. Now I want to look at sales and profits. So I'm going to highlight sales. Then to grab profits, I have to hold my control key and then click on profit and select all my profits. So I'm using the control key to grab non-adjacent cells. I'm going to go to insert, choose this time an XY plot, and let's move this to a different location, and we'll just call it XY sales versus profit. And let's see. All right, down at the bottom, the x-axis, that's my sales. So I want to indicate that that's what that is. So if we go up here to add chart element, I want to add an access title. My primary horizontal is the sales. Add chart element, chart title to the vertical, that's profit or profits. Maybe change the title around. We'll say that this is our ABC vehicle sales for 2020. So we can change that. And then finally here, it looks as though there's a fairly strong relationship. As the sales goes up, so do profits. It would make sense that at least you're making money. So we want to see how strong that relationship is. I'm going to right click on any one of these data points that I have and choose add trend line. I'm just going to leave this with a linear trend line. And give me just a minute. I'm going to scroll down here. I'd like to display the equation on my chart, display the R square valued on the chart, and that looks pretty good. Let's click on this, go to home, see if I can increase the font size there so you can read that a little bit easier. And that tells me my relationship between the two things. So if sales is 0, it's indicating that we're still going to get some sort of a profit, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if we could use it as a prediction, if our sales is $100,000, I take 100,000 times 0.29, add to it 3,000, and that should estimate what our profit would be on such a sale. The R squared valued is 0.79. That means that these dots are actually pretty close to that line. If it was if that R squared valued was exactly 1, it would mean that all those dots line up exactly on that line. If the R squared valued is 0, it basically would mean that these dots are just kind of all over the place at random, and that line doesn't really fit any of this stuff. So, with this particular data set, this is a fairly strong fit, and it would be a pretty good predictor about what's happened with sales and profit. And again, there should be a fairly strong relationship between the two. So, without too much work, we can do some different things with um, making charts like this. And it didn't take us all that long. It took us 10 minutes, 12 minutes to do it. And hopefully, you'll have some luck yourselves.